do it fast. Right here on the Anycast. Make it strong, make it last. Right here on the Anycast.
Some people call it assisted intelligence rather than artificial intelligence, and I think that's a good way of thinking about it.
Yeah. I don't see where all of the jobs go. It's just they shift.
A lot of it is freeing you up to focus on creative things, so that you have to do less of the non-creative stuff. And so I use AI very sparingly in writing the Pod News newsletter, but one of the ways that I use AI is at the end of the process of writing every single newsletter, I will put the whole text of that newsletter into an AI tool, and I'll say, from the following list of stories, find two that you think are most interesting, and write a one-sentence summary. And it will go away and do that, and that's the summary that you see in your podcast app or in the inbox of your email. It really is it's a bunch of tools. Now, you can make some really bad radio with those voice tracking systems, and you can also make some amazing radio. And similarly, I think with all of the tools that we have for AI, you can make some really bad, awful podcasts, and many people have using AI. But you can also make some fantastic stuff that is actually better than you could have done by yourself. It's just a bunch of tools, and you can use tools for good and use tools for bad. So I can completely understand where people are coming from. But I think instead of looking at AI as a whole overarching thing, look at each individual tool and work out, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? How could we use this for good? And I think if we end up doing that, then there are so many opportunities.
Yeah, and I'm glad you phrased it that way, because the thing that makes the most sense in my brain is it's a tool, and some tools do replace manual labor, and some tools help people do manual labor, and some tools totally eliminate the need to do the labor at all because they came up with a new way to do things.
Similarly, I've used AI once when I was on my way back from talking at a conference, I think in the US somewhere, and I was in a very noisy airport lounge, and I thought, I can't possibly record. Normally I'm very happy to record a podcast in a very noisy environment anyway, because it's quite fun, but I can't possibly do it in here. And so I just gave my words to a clone of my voice that one of these AI systems has, and it was very obviously a clone of my voice, and I said so right at the beginning, but they were still my words. And we've been doing that as audio engineers for a long, long time, all that kind of stuff. So we've always been able to do all of this. None of it is new. It's just that we've got tools.
Well, first, I think in the current world, what excites me about AI is, okay, if I do want to launch video, which is a possible path that I'm looking at, I've looked at software that already, can use Getty Images to find news video and pictures that would match the audio. And I do like 10, 12 news stories in about 10, 12 minutes. And so to manually find fair use or pay for specific videos and pictures that I could use and edit it all together, it would be very intensive to do every night, overnight, because it launches first thing in the morning. I don't really have that time and don't really want to pay someone for that time to do all of that work. If I want to have it not just be a talking head for, 12 minutes, which, is not necessarily a bad thing, but just thinking of the options. So anyway, this AI software is something that I would find very interesting. I could put in my script or my video, and they kind of match it, and I check it, and we're good to go, in probably 10 minutes versus hours. So I think that's how I'm like, okay, AI could be interesting and help me expand and grow today.
There's a lot of, I would say, histrionics, but a lot of emotions around the idea of AI actually producing content. And in my brain, one of the most straightforward AI-driven content types might be 10 minutes of news brought to you by, the Google AI voice.
I don't think it's at a point, even with things like the Google Notebook podcasts that are coming out, I don't think it's at a point where it could do it super well. in a way that is going to be what somebody wants to turn to now. That said, will it be in the future? Maybe. Someone always said, like, I came for the content, I stayed for the host, right? And so it's like, that might not exist with AI. And so, yeah, maybe if all you're looking for is like some information, maybe that will be enough. But I still think that like human to human connection and is going to be so important. And it's up to us to identify ways that we can bring that to the show, even if that means making changes in the future.
What is it about, I mean, specifically podcasting and AI, but also not specifically, what is that fear? Is it that fear that it's going to do, you're an editor or a journalist at The Atlantic and you might not be needed anymore?
This is humans again. So we're back in emotional territory. It's a stew of different fears. One, and this is valid, is that most AI models were built on data sets that model makers do not have permission to use. So, for example, OpenAI and its image data set scraped a gazillion images off the web. They do not have license to do that. And it is unresolved in law in the USA and will remain unresolved in law in the USA for probably another 10 years until all the current court cases work themselves out, at least according to Crystal Laser at CSU's law school. As to whether or not that is a violation of intellectual property rights or not. It is unresolved in law, so it is not illegal or legal right now until we get a ruling, until we get some rulings as to whether OpenAI infringes upon people's intellectual property rights. And so that's valid. That's not a fear. That feels yucky. There is absolutely a fear, and I think a warranted fear among people who are creative, that machines will take economic opportunities away from them. And they already have been in some domains, right? And this has been going on for some time. But these tools are much more capable than previous generations. And so in free market societies, if you are a business owner, you have a profit imperative, and your profit imperative is to earn as much as you can and spend as little as you can. And if a machine can help you cut the spend side by 10%, 20%, 30%, you as a rational business person will do that if you want your business to thrive, if you are motivated by profit. If you're not motivated by profit, then you will serve whatever the imperatives are. Where this does change things and where the market could be going is there's also a lot of stuff that is not taking away economic opportunity because it would never have happened to begin with. For example, I use Suno, the audio generator, a lot. I make ridiculous songs. I make songs. My friend Brooke Sellis put out a plea on LinkedIn for people to please fill out her survey that she's running. And I turned that into a song. I said, let's turn this into a pop country song. I would never have hired a human musician to do that. I would never have paid someone to do that. That song simply just would not have existed. However, it does now. And so there are roles for people to be curators of content because there's so much of it. For example, Notebook LM is a tool from Google. It's free. A lot of people have liked the audio overviews feature. In fact, a lot of people have started podcasts of purely machine-generated, these two voices that are part of Google's text-to-speech library. There is a place now that podcasting is getting even more crowded for curators to say, like, here's the best human podcast to listen to. Here's the best machine-generated podcast to listen to. The more content that you have available, the more valuable curation is because no one wants to wade through a 5 million podcast directory, right? No one wants to listen to every show. Instead, you want someone who has a point of view to curate that for you. And so there is opportunity there for creators to use their discernment skills to say, like, yeah, if you have to follow AI artists, this AI artist is the best. If you want purely human artists, this is the human artist to follow. So the reality is, for creators in many fields, machines are competitors. Machines are competing for the work, the individual tasks. And that means that and what's troubling about that from a macroeconomic perspective is that when you use ChatGPT or whatever to create something that you would have hired a human for instead, the economics and the dynamics of the economy change, because now you're giving money to a tech company instead of a human, and that human is not going into the regular economy and spending that money.
Like the way people were talking about AI, and maybe it's because, as it relates to an art form, and the purity or impurity or lack thereof was a thing, but everybody was like, do we need to start using disclaimers if AI was involved in the pot? Like all this stuff that I was just like, you don't disclaim literally any other technology you use. Like disclaimer, this was edited. That would be a great disclaimer if you're going to, publish content. But of everybody's content is edited, and you sort of assume it's going to be edited. Or, before Star Wars struck, disclaimer, this was not shot in outer space. In fact, there are no droids. This was done with CGI. Don't be alarmed, people.
This is different, another round, so much more to talk about. Gonna aim to satisfy with help from Cashfly. Get to it fast. Right here on the Anycast. Make it strong, make it last. Right here on the Anycast. The Anycast podcast, brought to you by Cashfly.